English Poems. This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. Read by Bruce Kachuk. English Poems by various authors. Evening by John Cunningham. O'er the heath the heifer strays, free, the furrowed task is done. Now the village windows blaze, burnished by the setting sun. Now he sets behind the hill, sinking from a golden sky. Can the pencil's mimic skill copy the refulgent dye? Trudging as the ploughmen go, to the smoking hamlet bound, giant-like their shadows grow, lengthening o'er the level ground, where the rising forest spreads shelter for the lordly dome. To their high-built airy beds see the rooks returning home, as the lark with varied tune carols to the evening loud. Mark the mild resplendent moon breaking through a parted cloud. Now the hermit owlet peeps from the barn or twisted brake, and the blue mist slowly creeps, curling on the silver lake, as the trout in speckled pride, playful from its bosom springs. To the banks a ruffled tide verges in successive rings, tripping through the silken grass. O'er the path-divided dale, mark the rose-complexioned lass, with her well-poised milking pail, linnets with unnumbered notes, and the cuckoo bird with two, tuning sweet their mellow throats, bid the setting sun adieu. End of poem. Catharina by William Cooper. Read for LibriVox.org. She came, she is gone. We have met, and meet perhaps never again. The sun of that moment is set, and seems to have risen in vain. Catharina has fled like a dream. So vanishes pleasure, alas, but has left a regret and a steam that will not so suddenly pass. The last evening ramble we made, Catharina, Maria, and I, our progress was often delayed by the nightingale warbling nigh. We paused under many a tree, and much she was charmed with a tone less sweet to Maria and me, who so lately had witnessed her own. My numbers that day she had sung, and gave them a grace so divine, as only her musical tongue could infuse into numbers of mine. The longer I heard, I esteemed the work of my fancy the more, and even to myself never seemed so tuneful a poet before. Though the pleasures of London exceed in numbers the days of the year, Catharina did nothing impede, would feel herself happier here. For the close-woven arches of limes on the banks of our river, I know, are sweeter to her many times than aught that the city can show. So it is when the mind is endued with a well-judging taste from above. Then whether embellished or rude, 'tis nature alone that we love. The achievements of art may amuse, may even our wonder excite, but groves, hills, and valleys diffuse a lasting, a sacred delight. Since then in the rural recess Catharina alone can rejoice, may it still be her lot to possess the scene of her sensible choice, to inhabit a mansion remote, from the clatter of street-pacing steeds, and by Philomel's annual note, to measure the life that she leads, with her book and her voice and her lyre, to wing all her moments at home, and with scenes that new rapture inspire, as oft as it suits her to roam, she will have just the life she prefers, with little to hope or to fear, and ours would be pleasant as hers, might we view her enjoying it here.
End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
The Solitary Reaper by William Wordsworth, read for LibriVox.org. Behold her single in the field, yon solitary Highland lass, reaping and singing by herself, stop here or gently pass. Alone she cuts and binds the grain, and sings a melancholy strain. Oh, listen, for the vale profound is overflowing with the sound. No nightingale did ever chant more welcome notes to weary bands of travellers in some shady haunt among Arabian sands. Such thrilling voice was never heard in springtime from the cuckoo bird, breaking the silence of the seas among the farthest Hebrides. Will no one tell me what she sings? Perhaps the plaintive numbers flow for old unhappy far-off things and battles long ago. Or is it some more humble lay, familiar matter of today? Some natural sorrow, loss, or pain that has been and may be again? Whate'er the theme, the maiden sang as if her song could have no ending. I saw her singing at her work, and o'er the sickle bending. I listened motionless and still, and when I mounted up the hill, the music in my heart I bore, long after it was heard no more.
End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
The Lazy Mist by Robert Burns, read for LibriVox.org. The lazy mist hangs from the brow of the hill, concealing the course of the dark winding rill. How languid the scenes, late so sprightly, appear, as autumn to winter resigns the pale year. The forests are leafless, the meadows are brown, and all the gay foppery of summer is flown. Apart let me wonder, apart let me muse, how quick time is flying, how keen fate pursues. How long I have lived, but how much lived in vain. How little of life's scanty span may remain. What aspects old time in his progress has worn. What ties cruel fate in my bosom has torn. How foolish or worse till our summit is gained, and downward how weakened, how darkened, how pained. This life's not worth having, with all it can give, for something beyond it, poor man, sure must live.
End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
Noon by John Cunningham, read for LibriVox.org. Fervid on the glittering flood, now the noontide radiance glows, drooping o'er its infant bud. Not a dewdrop's left the rose. By the brook the shepherd dines, from the fierce meridian heat, sheltered by the branching pines, pendant o'er his grassy seat. Now the flock forsakes the glade, where unchecked the sunbeams fall, sure to find a pleasing shade by the ivied abbey wall. echo in her airy round o'er river, rock, and hill, cannot catch a single sound save the clack of yonder mill. Cattle court the zephyrs bland, where the streamlet wanders cool, or with languid silence stand midway in the marshy pool. But from mountain, dell, or stream not a fluttering zephyr springs, fearful lest the noontide beam scorch its silken wings. Not a leaf has leave to stir, nature's lulled serene and still, quiet e'en the shepherd's cur, sleeping on the heath-clad hill. Languid is the landscape round, till the fresh descending shower, grateful to the thirsty ground, raises every fainting flower. Now the hill, the hedges green, now the warbler's throats in tune, blithesome is the verdant scene, brightened by the beams of noon.
End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
Loch Long by Samuel Rogers. Read for LibriVox.org. Blue was the loch, the clouds were gone, Ben Lomond in his glory shone, when, Luss, I left thee, when the breeze bore me from thy silver sands, thy kirkyard wall among the trees, where grey with age the dial stands, that dial so well known to me, though many a shadow it had shed, beloved sister, since with thee the legend on the stone was read. The fairy isles fled far away, that with its woods and uplands green, where shepherd huts are dimly seen, and songs are heard at close of day, that too the deer's wild covert fled, and that the asylum of the dead, while as the boat went merrily, much of Rob Roy the boatman told, his arm that fell below his knee, his cattle ford and mountain hold. Tarbot thy shore I climbed at last, and thy shady region past. Upon another shore I stood, and looked upon another flood. Great Ocean's self, 'tis he who fills that vast and awful depth of hills, where many an elf was playing round, who treads unshod his classic ground, and speaks his native rocks among, as Fingal spoke and Ossian sung. Night fell, and darker grew that narrow sea, that narrow sky, as o'er the glimmering waves we flew, the sea-bird rustling, wailing by. And now the grampus, half descried, black and huge above the tide, the cliffs and promontories there, front to front and broad and bare, each beyond each with giant feet, advancing as in haste to meet the shattered fortress whence the Dane blew his shrill blast, nor rushed in vain, tyrant of the drear domain. All into midnight shadow sweep, when day springs upward from the deep, kindling the waters in its flight. The prow wakes splendor, and the oar, that rose and fell unseen before, flashes in a sea of light. Glad sign and sure, for now we hail thy flowers, Glenfinnet, in the gale. And bright indeed the path should be that leads to friendship and to thee. O blest retreat, and sacred too, sacred as when the bell of prayer tolled dewly on the desert air, and crosses decked thy summits blue. Oft like some loved romantic tale, oft shall my weary mind recall, amid the hum and stir of men, thy beechen grove and waterfall, thy ferry with its gliding sail, and her, the lady of the glen.
End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
The Rural Walk by William Cooper. Read for LibriVox.org. For I have loved the rural walk through lanes of grassy swarth, close cropped by nibbling sheep, and skirted thick with intertexture firm of thorny boughs, have loved the rural walk o'er hills through valleys, and by rivers' brink, ere since a truant boy I passed my bounds t'enjoy a ramble on the banks of Thames, and still remember, nor without regret, of hours that sorrow has since much endeared, how oft my slice of pocket store consumed, still hungering, penniless and far from home, I fed on scarlet hips and stony haws, or blushing crabs, or berries that emboss the bramble, black as jet, or sloes austere. Hard fare, but such as boyish appetite disdains not, nor the palate, undepraved by culinary arts, unsavory deems.
End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
Evening in the Mountains by William Wordsworth. Read for LibriVox.org. Has not the soul, the being of your life, received a shock of awful consciousness, in some calm season, when these lofty rocks at night's approach bring down th' unclouded sky to rest upon their circumambient walls, a temple framing of dimensions vast, and yet not too enormous for the sound of human anthems, choral song, or burst sublime of instrumental harmony, to glorify the eternal? What if these did never break the stillness that prevails here? If the solemn nightingale be mute, and the soft woodlark here did never chant her vespers? Nature fails not to provide impulse and utterance. The whispering air sends inspiration from the shadowy heights and blind recesses of the caverned rocks. The little rills and waters numberless, inaudible by daylight, blend their notes with the loud streams, and often, at the hour when issue forth the first pale stars, is heard within the circuit of this fabric huge, one voice, one solitary raven, flying athwart the concave of the dark blue dome, unseen, perchance above the power of sight, an iron knell, with echoes from afar, faint and still fainter.
End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
Fontainebleau by Humphrey Davy. Read for LibriVox.org. The mists disperse, and where a sullen cloud hung on the mountain's verge, the sun bursts forth in all its majesty of purple light. It is a winter's evening, and the year is fast departing, yet the hues of heaven are bright, as in the summer's warmest month. It is the season of the sleep of things, but nature in her sleep is lovely still. The trees display no green, no forms of life, and yet a magic foliage clothes them round, and purest crystals of pellucid ice, all purple in the sunset, mist the wood. Fantastically rise the towering cliffs, that in another season had been white, but now, contrasted with the brilliant ice, shine in aerial tints of purest blue. The varied outline has 1,000 charms. Here rises high a venerable wood, where oaks are seen, with massy ice girt round, and birches pendant with their glittering arms, and graceful beeches clinging to the soil. There massy forms exist of rocks alone, rising as if the work of human art, the pride of some great paladin of old, in awful ruins. Nearer I behold the palace of a race of mighty kings, but now another tenant's. On these walls where erst the silver lily spread her leaves, the graceful symbol of a brilliant court, the golden eagle shines, the bird of prey, emblem of rapine and of lawless power. Such is the fitful change of human things. An empire rises like a cloud in heaven, red in the morning sun, spreading its tints of golden hue along the feverish sky, and filling the horizon. Soon its tints are darkened, and it brings the thunderstorm, lightning, and hail, and desolation comes. But in destroying, it dissolves and falls, never to rise.
End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
A Fragment by Humphrey Davy, read for LibriVox.org. It is alone in solitude we feel and know what powers belong to us. By sympathy excited and constrained by tedious ceremony in the world, many whom we are fit to lead we follow. And fools and confident men, and those who think themselves all-knowing, from the littleness of their own talents, and the sphere they move in, which is most little, these do rule the world. Even like the poet's dream of elder time, the fabled Titans imaged to aspire unto the infinitely distant heaven, because they raised a pile of common stones, and higher stood than those around them. The great is ever obscure, indefinite, and knowledge still, the highest, the most distant, most sublime, is, like the stars, composed of luminous points, but without visible image or known distance. E'en with respect to human things and forms, we estimate and know them but in solitude. The eye of the worldly man is insect-like, fit only for the near and single objects. The true philosopher in distance sees them, and scans their forms, their bearings and relations. To view a lovely landscape in its whole, we do not fix upon one cave or rock or woody hill out of the mighty range of the wide scenery. We rather mount a lofty knoll to mark the varied whole. The waters blue, the mountains gray and dim, the shaggy hills, and the embattled cliffs, with their mysterious glens, awakening imagination wild, interminable.
End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
Autumn by William Wordsworth, read for LibriVox.org. The sylvan slopes with corn-clad fields are hung as if with golden shields, bright trophies of the sun. Like a fair sister of the sky, unruffled doth the blue lake lie, the mountains looking on. And sooth to say, yon vocal grove, albeit uninspired by love untaught to ring, may well afford to mortal ear an impulse more profoundly dear than music of the spring, for that from turbulence and heat proceeds from some uneasy seat in nature's struggling frame, some region of impatient life and jealousy and quivering strife therein a portion claim. This is holy, while I hear these vespers of another year, this hymn of thanks and praise. My spirit seems to mount above the anxieties of human love and earth's precarious days. But list, though winter's storms be nigh, unchecked is that soft harmony. There lives who can provide for all his creatures, and in him, even like the radiant seraphim, these choristers confide.
End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
The Last Minstrel by Sir Walter Scott. Read for LibriVox.org. The way was long, the wind was cold, the minstrel was infirm and old. His withered cheek and tresses gray seemed to have known a better day. The harp, his sole remaining joy, was carried by an orphan boy. The last of all the bards was he, who sung of border chivalry. For well-a-day their date was fled, his tuneful brethren all were dead, and he, neglected and oppressed, wished to be with them and at rest. No more on prancing palfrey borne, he carolled light as lark at morn. No longer courted and caressed, high-placed in hall, a welcome guest, he poured to lord and lady gay the unpremeditated lay. Old times were changed, old manners gone, a stranger filled the steward's throne. The bigots of the iron time had called his harmless art a crime. A wandering harper, scorned and poor, he begged his bread from door to door, and tuned to please a peasant's ear the harp a king had loved to hear. He passed where Newark's stately tower looks out from Yarrow's birchen bower. The minstrel gazed with wistful eye, no humbler resting place was nigh. With hesitating step at last the embattled portal arch he passed, whose ponderous grate and massy bar had oft rolled back the tide of war, but never closed the iron door against the desolate and poor. The Duchess marked his weary pace, his timid mien and reverent face, and bade her page the menials tell that they should tend the old man well. For she had known adversity, though born in such a high degree, in pride of power, in beauty's bloom, had wept o'er Monmouth's bloody tomb. When kindness had his wants supplied, and the old man was gratified, began to rise his minstrel pride, and he began to talk anon of good Earl Francis dead and gone, and of Earl Walter, rest him God, a braver ne'er to battle rode, and how full many a tale he knew of the old warriors of Buccleuch. And would the noble Duchess deign to listen to an old man's strain? Though stiff his hand, his voice though weak, he thought even yet the sooth to speak, that if she loved the harp to hear, he could make music to her ear. The humble boon was soon obtained, the aged minstrel audience gained. But when he reached the room of state, where she with all her ladies sate, Perchance he wished his boon denied, for when to tune his harp he tried, his trembling hand had lost the ease which marks security to please, and scenes long past of joy and pain came wildering o'er his aged brain. He tried to tune his harp in vain. The pitying Duchess praised its chime, and gave him heart and gave him time, till every string's according glee was blended into harmony. And then he said he would full fain he could recall an ancient strain he never thought to sing again. It was not framed for village churls, but for high dames and mighty earls. He had played it to King Charles the Good, when he kept court in Holyrood, and much he wished, yet feared to try, the long forgotten melody. Amid the strings his fingers strayed, and an uncertain warbling made, and oft he shook his hoary head. But when he caught the measure wild, the old man raised his face and smiled, and lightened up his faded eye with all a poet's ecstasy. In varying cadence, soft or strong, he swept the sounding chords along, the present scene, the future lot, his toils, his wants were all forgot, cold diffidence and age's frost in the full tide of song were lost, each blank in faithless memory void the poet's glowing thought supplied, and while his harp responsive rung, 'twas thus the latest minstrel sung.
End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
Winter by Bernard Barton. Read for LibriVox.org. Thou hast thy beauties, sterner ones, I own, than those of thy precursors, yet to thee belong the charms of solemn majesty and naked grandeur. Awful is the tone of thy tempestuous nights, when clouds are blown by hurrying winds across the troubled sky; pensive, when softer breezes faintly sigh through leafless boughs, with ivy overgrown. Thou hast thy decorations too, although thou art austere, thy studded mantle, gay with icy brilliance, which as proudly glow as erst Golconda's, and thy pure array of regal ermine, when the drifted snow envelops nature, till her features seem like pale but lovely ones, seen when we dream.
End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
Flocks and Herds by James Thomson. Read for LibriVox.org. Around the adjoining brook that purls along the vocal grove, now fretting o'er a rock, now scarcely moving through a reedy pool, now starting to a sudden stream, and now gently diffused into a limpid plain, a various group the herds and flocks compose. Rural confusion. On the grassy bank some ruminating lie, while others stand half in the flood, and often bending sip the circling surface. In the middle droops the strong laborious ox, of honest front, which in composed he shakes, and from his sides the troublous insects lashes with his tail, returning still. Amid his subjects safe slumbers the monarch swain, his careless arm thrown round his head, on downy moss sustained. Here laid his scrip, with wholesome viands filled, there listening every noise his watchful dog.
End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
A Sea Fog by George Crabbe, read for LibriVox.org. When all you see through densest fog is seen, when you can hear the fishers near at hand distinctly speak, yet see not where they stand, or sometimes them and not their boat discern, or half concealed some figure at the stern, boys who, on shore, to see the pebble cast, will hear it strike against the viewless mast, while the stern boatman growls his fierce disdain, at whom he knows not, whom he threats in vain. 'Tis pleasant then to view the nets float past, net after net, till you have seen the last, and as you wait till all beyond you slip, a boat comes gliding from an anchored ship, breaking the silence with the dipping oar, and their own tones, as laboring for the shore, those measured tones with which the scene agree, and give a sadness to serenity.
End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
The Cloud by Percy Bysshe Shelley, read for LibriVox.org. I bring fresh showers for the thirsting flowers from the seas and the streams. I bear light shades for the leaves when laid in their noonday dreams. From my wings are shaken the dews that waken the sweet buds every one, when rocked to rest on their mother's breast as she dances about the sun. I wield the flail of the lashing hail and whiten the green plains under, and then again I dissolve it in rain and laugh as I pass in thunder. I sift the snow on the mountains below, and their great pines groan aghast, and all the night 'tis my pillow white, while I sleep in the arms of the blast. Sublime on the towers of my skyey bowers, lightning my pilot sits. In a cavern under is fettered the thunder, it struggles and howls at fits. Over earth and ocean with gentle motion this pilot is guiding me, lured by the love of the genii that move in the depths of the purple sea. Over the rills and the crags and the hills, over the lakes and the plains, wherever he dream under mountain or stream, the spirit he loves remains. And I all the while bask in heaven's blue smile, whilst he is dissolving in rains. The sanguine sunrise with his meteor eyes and his burning plumes outspread leaps on the back of my sailing wreck when the morning star shines dead, as on the jag of a mountain crag which an earthquake rocks and swings. An eagle alit one moment may sit in the light of its golden wings, and when sunset may breathe from the lit sea beneath its ardors of rest and of love, and the crimson pall of eve may fall from the depth of heaven above. With wings folded I rest on mine airy nest, as still as a brooding dove. That orbed maiden with white fire laden, whom mortals call the moon, glides glimmering o'er my fleece-like floor, by the midnight breezes strewn. And wherever the beat of her unseen feet, which only the angels hear, may have broken the woof of my tent's thin roof, the stars peep behind her and peer, and I laugh to see them whirl and flee like a swarm of golden bees, when I widen the rent in my wind-built tent till the calm rivers, lakes, and seas Like strips of the sky fallen through me on high, are each paved with the moon and these. I bind the sun's throne with the burning zone, and the moon's with a girdle of pearl. The volcanoes are dim, and the stars reel and swim, when the whirlwinds my banner unfurl. From cape to cape, with a bridge-like shape, over a torrent sea. Sunbeam proof, I hang like a roof, the mountains its columns be. The triumphal arch through which I march, with hurricane, fire, and snow. When the powers of the air are chained to my chair, is the million-colored bow. The sphere fire above its soft colors wove, while the moist earth was laughing below. I am the daughter of earth and water, and the nursling of the sky. I pass through the pores of the ocean and shores, I change, but I cannot die. For after the rain, when with never a stain, the pavilion of heaven is bare, and the winds and sunbeams with their convex gleams build up the blue dome of air, I silently laugh at my own cenotaph, and out of the caverns of rain, like a child from the womb, like a ghost from the tomb, I arise and unbuild it again.
End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
Kindness by Thomas Noon Talford. Read for LibriVox.org. The blessings which the weak and poor can scatter have their own season. 'Tis a little thing to give a cup of water, yet its draught of cool refreshment, drained by fevered lips, may give a shock of pleasure to the frame, more exquisite than when nectarian juice renews the life of joy in happiest hours. It is a little thing to speak a phrase of common comfort, which by daily use has almost lost its sense. Yet on the ear of him who thought to die unmourned, 'twill fall like choicest music, fill the glazing eye with gentle tears, relax the knotted hand to know the bonds of fellowship again, and shed on the departing soul a sense more precious than the benison of friends about the honored death-bed of the rich, to him who else were lonely, that another of the great family is near and feels.
End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
End of English Poems by various authors